On July 6, 2022, before sunrise in Elberton, Georgia, an explosion erased a monument that had stood for 42 years. The Georgia Guidestones were massive granite slabs covered in rules about population, power, and control. Built in 1980 by a man using the name R.C. Christian, they drew believers, critics, and endless suspicion.
The four standing stones should outline the migration of the moon over a year. A small viewing hole in the middle support stone would need to always show the North Star. A slot at the top of the middle support stone should align with a winter and summer solstice's rising sun and indicate noon at the equinoxes. A hole should be drilled through the capstone that focuses the sun on the center column at noon to indicate the day of the year.
When the stones came down, the debate did not fade. It sharpened. The mystery of who built them and why they were destroyed finally collided. Hat followed was silence, security footage, and the name no one expected.
Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature.
Georgia Guidestones explodes. In the early hours of July 6, 2022, long before dawn broke over Elbert County, Georgia, a powerful blast ripped through the quiet farmland that had been home to the Georgia Guidestones for more than 4 decades. Around 4 a.m., surveillance cameras captured the unmistakable flash and thunder of an explosive device detonated at the monument's base. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, called in by the Elbert County Sheriff's Office, quickly confirmed that unknown individuals had used an explosive to damage the structure. Law enforcement investigated the footage and found out a shocking truth, not just about the blast itself, but also a vehicle leaving the scene shortly after the explosion, suggesting the perpetrator fled immediately after the attack. Even with the dramatic destruction, no injuries were reported because the site was deserted at that pre-sunrise hour. In the hours that followed, what remained of the Guidestones was completely dismantled by authorities. Law enforcement deemed the damaged monument unsafe, and heavy equipment was brought in to break apart the remaining slabs and remove them from sight. This ended the stones' 42-year presence in rural Georgia. The explosion ignited widespread attention locally and internationally, not only because of the sheer spectacle of the mysterious moment that destroyed the monument, but also because of the theories and controversies that eventually came up. To make this weirder, no one knows who caused the monument to explode, and the sheriff's office can't find any suspects. But where did the monument come from, and what caused it to collapse? Origin of the Guidestones. The origin of the Georgia Guidestones is one of modern American mystery and intrigue. The story starts with a stranger who arrived in Elbert County, Georgia, in the late summer of 1979 and set in motion what would later be called America's Stonehenge. In June of that year, a well-dressed man walked into the offices of the Elberton Granite Finishing Company, seeking a monumental granite project that would eclipse anything the local granite capital had ever produced. He identified himself as Robert C. Christian, though it was later revealed that this was not his real name, but a pseudonym chosen for reasons that were tied to his beliefs and the values of the group he claimed to represent. No one knew who he was or where he was from, but he told the president of the granite company, Joe H. Fendley Sr., that he was speaking on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans who had been planning a monument for over 2 decades. The monument was meant to communicate a message to future generations, What made this request extraordinary was not just the scale of the project, but the fact that Christian remained completely anonymous. He never revealed his name or the group that he said was backing him. He even arranged his funding and land purchase through a local banker, Wyatt C. Martin, as long as Martin didn't disclose his real identity. The secrecy around Christian was so intense that only Fendley and Martin ever met in person, and both actually kept the secret of his identity to their graves. They never told anyone. Christian presented detailed plans and specifications for the stone structure, saying that it should be built with features like astronomical alignments and the ability to withstand catastrophic events. It seemed like this was not a simple public art to Christian. For decades, the true identity of R.C. Christian remained unknown, and this fueled a lot of speculation and conspiracies. In recent years, investigators have pointed to one possible candidate, which is Dr. Herbert H. Kirsten, a physician from Fort Dodge, Iowa, who died in 2005. Clues such as age, letters matching Christian's postmarks, and shared views on population issues have led some historians to suggest that Kirsten might have been the person who made the stone monument, although it is still unsure because he never admitted it. After Christian had partnered with the local company, he was finally ready to unveil it, although he never showed himself in public. But this was a major moment for the county, as everyone was curious about what was about to emerge. Guidestones unveiled in 1980. On March 22, 1980, just after a year, the enigmatic Georgia Guidestones were revealed to the world in a modest yet symbolic ceremony atop a gentle hill in rural Elbert County, Georgia. After months of construction by local stoneworkers, the massive granite slabs were finally ready for their public debut, each carved with multilingual inscriptions and aligned with celestial features. The morning's event drew a crowd of local residents, officials, and media. Most accounts from the period describe several hundred attendees, including U.S. Congressman Doug Barnard, Elberton's mayor, county commissioners, and curious observers that had never before seen such a striking structure appear overnight on the Georgia landscape. As the spring's arrival coincided with the unveiling, the hilltop was alive with anticipation. Workers and organizers had spent weeks preparing the site so that, when the coverings were finally removed, the stones stood tall against the morning light. Local news crews captured the moments as dignitaries and community members stood before the four towering granite monoliths and their central support and capstone, collectively weighing more than 230,000 pounds and rising nearly 19 feet above the ground. Many people don't only remember the sheer size and craftsmanship of the stones, but also the sense of curiosity and conversation among those present, as they were very confused about what the point of this monument was in their community. Over the decades, the Guidestones went on to attract global attention and debate. But what had many people interested was the guidelines inscribed on the stones. Guidelines on the Guidestones. When the Georgia Guidestones were unveiled in 1989, their most striking feature was not the massive granite slabs themselves, but the 10 guidelines etched into their faces. This was meant to be a set of principles presented as a blueprint for how humanity could live in harmony with the earth and each other. These inscriptions were carved in 8 modern languages: English, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Hebrew, Hindi, and Swahili. This was meant to make the message accessible to a global audience and was supplemented by shorter messages in ancient scripts on the capstone. At face value, some of the guidelines read like aspirational maxims. It calls to protect people with fair laws and just courts, to balance personal rights with social duties, and to prize truth, beauty, and love while seeking harmony with the infinite. Others promote unity and propose a living new language to bring humanity together. and urge nations to resolve disputes through a world court, hinting at cooperation beyond borders. But the most talked about inscriptions were the first and second. The opening guideline says, "Maintain humanity under 500,000 hours in perpetual balance with nature," suggesting a dramatic reduction from the billions of people then on Earth. Observers quickly guessed that this was alarming or ominous. The next said, "Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity," evoked a lot of conversations with selective breeding and eugenics when removed from context. Together, these statements sparked intense debate over their meaning and intent. Because the monument's creator remained anonymous, the interpretations of these words varied widely. Some supporters say that the guidelines inscribed on the monument are aspirational. They say it's a rational, future-oriented ethical code urging humanity toward sustainability, peace, and thoughtful stewardship of the planet. But others say that this might be a veiled prescription for extreme population control, especially since it says to maintain humanity under 500 million, way less than the world population. These interpretations have become even more popular because of conspiracy theories, and many people misunderstand the monument's original purpose. It's hard to understand what the monument is meant for, especially since Christian never explained the meaning or came out in public. Over the years, it became one of the most debated sets of modern commandments, and as you can expect, it has led to a lot of conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. The Georgia Guidestones, to many people, began to attract a lot of modern conspiracy theories, especially those tied to secret elites, global controls, and apocalyptic visions. From the moment the slab of 10 inscriptions was unveiled in 1980, critics and fringe thinkers have projected into the stones meanings that go well beyond what their anonymous patron intended, turning the stones into a source of speculation about hidden agendas and shadowy powers. At the core of many conspiracy narratives is the idea that the Guidestones inscriptions, especially the call to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature and to guide reproduction wisely, were not philosophical suggestions but proof of a sinister blueprint for mass depopulation and control. These lines have been interpreted by theorists and historians as evidence of a New World Order plot. This plot comes from the belief that a cabal of influential elites seeks to impose a single global government, reduce the world's population, and reshape human society according to their designs. This aligns with broader New World Order conspiracies, which say that symbols, monuments, and elite gatherings are code signals of a clandestine agenda for domination. Those in the right-wing and religious circles took these interpretations even further. The monument was at times labeled satanic or occult. Detractors claim it promoted paganism or worship of dark forces rather than Christian values. Figures like Mark Dice have argued the stones were of deep satanic origin, supposedly linked to secret societies or esoteric orders. They say that the monument justifies aggressive rhetoric and vandalism. The rise of the Internet has amplified these theories, especially during periods of social upheaval such as the COVID-19 pandemic, when online communities started connecting the Guidestones to unrelated fears about vaccines, population control, and elite manipulation. High-profile conspiracy promoters like Alex Jones said the site was the birthplace of the modern depopulation movement. This has added to the idea that the Guidestones were not just a philosophical curiosity. Local and national conspiracies also intersected with political drama. A fringe gubernatorial candidate in Georgia even wanted to destroy the monument, calling it satanic and tied to global elite plots. But he never destroyed it. In the end, whether framed as evidence of a new world order, proof of occult symbolism, or a roadmap for elite control, there are many theories about the Guidestones. Looking at the strange writings, There are many interpretations of what Christian inscribed on the monuments. Christian's writings. Many people try to understand the meaning behind the Georgia Guidestones, and you can go straight to R.C. Christian's own writings. Although he never revealed his true identity, he wrote a book in 1986 titled Common Sense Renewed, painting a fuller picture. Christian didn't just commission a granite monument with strange rules. According to the rare booklet he sent to members of Congress and other leaders, he wanted to expand on the logic and urgency behind the Guidestones' messages, especially those related to population, government, and reproduction. In Common Sense Renewed, Christian argues that unchecked population growth and resource consumption pose existential risks to humanity and the Earth. He suggests that rational governance must take precedence over what he saw as outdated customs and fragmented national interests. He clearly writes that reproduction is no longer exclusively a personal matter, and that society, through government policy, needs to guide procreation to ensure the long-term welfare of future generations. He even urged the governments to adopt formal population policies because demographic decisions have effects way beyond private households. To critics, these lines are really chilling, and they don't seem like just normal environmental concerns. By supporting the idea of state-directed reproduction, which decides who should have children and who shouldn't, isn't purely individual, but subject to societal oversight. Christian's own phrasing about healthy children and developing their potentials has been interpreted by some as echoing eugenic thinking. This is a discredited idea that human populations can or should be shaped according to selective genetic criteria. Many theorists focus on this language, and they compare it to the historical eugenics movements and warn that the book supports government-controlled breeding programs rather than personal freedom. Supporters of Christian's broader rationale emphasize that his motivation was framed in idealistic terms. He used reason to protect humanity from its own destructive tendencies by balancing population and natural resources. In this view, the underlying theme of the Guidestones and Common Sense Renewed is a plea for rational decision-making in the face of global challenges, even if the solutions he proposed were controversial. Because Common Sense Renewed directly touches on government authority over reproduction, population limits, and global cooperation, it has been very important to ongoing debates about the purpose of the Guidestones. Why did Christian have to erect an entire monument about this, and what was he planning to achieve? Many say that he might not have been simply showing his beliefs, but was just trying to influence people and spread his idea of social engineering. Why do you think R.C. Christian built this monument? Many other theorists have their ideas on what the truth could be. Internet theorists. When the mystery of the Georgia Guidestones first captured public attention, the unidentified benefactor known as R.C. Christian had remained intriguing, just like the directives inscribed. Over time, some of the Internet's wildest theories have grown up around who he was and what the Guidestones really represented. For years, the true identity of Christian remained a tightly guarded secret because only two people met him face to face. That secrecy was fertile ground for Internet sleuths and conspiracy boards, which long speculated about powerful hidden figures or even secret societies behind the monument's creation. One of the most persistent and recently revived theories centers on Dr. Herbert Heine Kirsten, a physician from Fort Dodge, Iowa. Investigators traced postmarks on letters sent by R.C. Christian to Martin back to Kirsten's address, and proponents of this theory note that his age, environmental concerns, and writings about overpopulation align closely with the Guidestones' themes. The only problem is that his family continues to deny any involvement, and the proof remains elusive. Recently, there have been more theories and conspiracies online. Some connect R.C. Christian to secret societies, saying that the initials might be connected to Christian Rosenkreuz, the mythical founder of the Rosicrucian order. It's an esoteric group sometimes connected to shadowy organizations. Others have said that prominent public figures like Ted Turner, the media mogul, were behind the project. Although these claims are spreading among theorists, they still lack verifiable evidence, and researchers have dismissed them. Beyond identity, Internet discussions have expanded into broader, and often contradictory, theories about the Guidestones' purpose. Some people on social platforms insist the stones were a blueprint for a new world order or a covert message to global elites, embedding symbols, astronomical alignments, or encoded directives into the monument's design. Others propose occult interpretations, such as ley line power nodes or portals, while more pop culture-oriented threads even bring in unrelated conspiracies like extraterrestrial involvement or connections to broader global agendas. You might think that the Guidestones were destroyed by an explosion in 2022 and the theories would subside. Instead, there are even more theories as many people try to understand why it suddenly exploded and who destroyed it after it stood for 4 decades. Guidestones demolished. Now, let's go back to the shocking destruction of the Georgia Guidestones. It was torn apart by an explosion. Around 4 a.m., surveillance footage captured a blast at the base of the stones that shattered one of the monoliths and sent granite fragments flying across the landscape. Moments later, a car was seen speeding away from the scene, with its headlines cutting through the darkness as the law enforcement responded. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation confirmed that unknown individuals had detonated an explosive device at the site, leaving the iconic structure severely damaged. In the hours that followed, because the remaining stones were unstable and posed a safety risk, authorities brought in heavy machinery like backhoes and excavators to dismantle what remained of the monument, reducing it to rubble. A passerby took a photo of the Guidestones in the post-blast demolition process. He saw massive blocks of granite stand fractured and half-broken, while a deer excavator arm looms over them, excavating and clearing debris as the once proud monument was disassembled piece by piece. Who actually carried out the bombing and why? The answer remains unknown. Even with the surveillance clips showing the explosion and the fleeing vehicle, no suspects have been publicly identified, charged, or apprehended by the GBI or local law enforcement. Some observers see the demolition as an act of vandalism by individuals opposed to what they believed the stones symbolized. In recent years, the Guidestones had been attacked before with graffiti and had become a rallying point for conspiracy beliefs about global control and hidden elites. A few fringe political voices even campaigned on promises to remove them, calling the monument satanic, and some celebratory comments online interpreted the blast as a kind of populist pushback against perceived elitism or hypocrisy. Others described the destruction as simply criminal vandalism with no higher motive, a dramatic and regrettable end to a controversial piece of public art. Who do you think destroyed the monument at that moment? Was it without motive, or was someone against Christians' words? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.